Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 1605. The topic is mindset, and the title is Social Media Impact on Fitness. So I've been talking in the last couple podcasts that we have a members listener board in our gym. So members can write down any questions they have on an index card. I answer them and then let them know what podcast number it is on the index card. And it's just a nice way for us to have some interaction and people to get their one-on-one questions answered. So any question you have as an individual, you can absolutely get answered. Now, I've also encouraged people to always reach out on our emails, brutalirongym@gmail.com, if you're not a member of our gym. And then we also have our website, www.brutalirongym.com. You can go to the podcast page and do donations or like a topic request. So I had somebody send that in, this question in actually through the website, which was cool. I love that. So the listener went on and wrote a little bit of like extra context. So I'll talk to that in a second. But the base question is, how do you believe social media has impacted how people approach dieting and training? And they went on and told a little bit of a backstory. But that part was just for us, I guess. It didn't apply to the podcast part. We just kind of chatted back and forth. But I like the question. How do you believe social media has impacted how people approach dieting and training? And one of the reasons why they said they asked me was I started lifting before there was internet. So I'm 39 years old, and I grew up in kind of the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. And we didn't have internet until I was 17, I believe, 16, 17. And there wasn't actually like fitness related stuff. I mean, I didn't join Facebook, I think, until I was like 24. So really didn't have the influence of internet when I first started. And now I have like a YouTube page that has over like I think 1,000 videos. I have podcasts now that has over 1,600 episodes. So I'm personally invested into social media, and I watch and view and interact with social media all the time. Especially through like Instagram. I forget how many posts we have. I think we have like 3,000 individual posts on Instagram. I actually looked that up because I think it would be interesting. Yeah, 3,437 posts, which I believe is a lot. And I didn't even start that until it was like 2015 or something. So I'm very late to the game when it comes to social media. But what's been fun is I achieved really big goals. I made a lot of physical changes before social media became what it is today. So I've seen it beforehand and I've seen it afterwards. And that's why they asked me the question. They thought it was kind of fun to see what the perspective of that has been from somebody who has been there before social media and is still there after social media. So I did start before the internet. I used to use magazines, Muscular Development and Men's Fitness. I used to get those once a month, and of course I would read through them the first day I got them, and then have to wait the next like 29 days to get more. But that's what I kind of first started with, was what are the older people than me, at the school gym, what do they say to do, all that kind of stuff. And then you get magazines and eventually get onto online. I remember one of the first things I did was RX Muscles. It's a company by Dave Palumbo. They had a training series, video series called In the Iron Asylum. Iron Asylum was actually one of the name ideas I had for the gym. But In the Iron Asylum was an interview process. Like they would have a video of a bodybuilder working out, and then just by today's standard, a cheap video, like audio recording over top, where Dave Palumbo would interview the bodybuilder. And I would love that. That would be like, that was my jam. I would watch that once a week. I would take all the notes I could on everything I saw. Then I'd go down to my parents' basement. They were amazing and awesome and got me a weightlifting set when I was 16th birthday. And I would go down and I would try to do every single thing I saw in the videos. So it was really cool to start to learn via social media after already having like a year or two of lifting in. So what I thought was interesting was social media over time, for me, is it opened my eyes to more useful information. So I started to learn like how to just, if I'm going to give effort, how my effort could have more impact. So I started to learn more techniques, more awareness of what information, impacts what I want to achieve. So there was a much, much, much more awareness of useful information. So a lot of knowledge that I gained. But I was also, it increased my awareness of people who had already achieved my goal. So I knew more information that should help me achieve my goal faster. And I knew that I knew it, so therefore I knew I should achieve it faster. And then I was also more aware of other people that had already achieved my goal. I could see, bodybuilders I never knew existed before. People who were physically fit. And I was like, oh man, that person has what I want. That person has what I want. That person has what I want. So it created a sense of greater pressure. So it would be like, well, you know more. Why aren't you more successful? Others have done it. Even more people than you knew have done it. Why aren't you more successful? If you would have asked me, at that age, if I had those feelings, that feeling of increased pressure, increased expectation, I would have said no, because I generally feel like I'm not, impacted by social media. Now, don't we all feel that way? But are we? Absolutely, myself included. There's a lot of subconscious factors, and it's something where I don't think I would have been consciously aware of the impact that it was having. But looking back at it now, and from training 3,000 plus clients, there absolutely is an impact. And in general, that's what the impact is people's expectations of success are greater. So social media's biggest impact has been a greater pressure to succeed, and to succeed to a greater degree. When I was younger, I remember looking back now, one of the things that was amazing was there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook for me, and I would train for months, if not the first couple years. I didn't have Instagram until 2015. I didn't have Facebook till I was 24. So I trained for years without ever posting a photo, without ever posting a video. I trained for years without anyone ever knowing what I was doing. I couldn't get that instant gratification that, I had a big, awesome workout, I want to put that online. Even if nobody comments, even if nobody, really interacts much, but we get a like. Somebody views our video. That kind of gives us validation. It gives us a sense of happiness, for what we've been doing. And I remember when I was younger, I would go for months or years without anything. I might train for 4 months, and then somebody in passing goes, "Oh, Rob, you look a little leaner," and it's like, "Oh, yes," So it's like I could see it and feel it, but you wonder if you're crazy or not. And then when somebody else says it, you're like, "Yes," So you don't do it for external validation. I don't do it for others to say, whether it's good or bad. I'm not looking for their judgment. But when somebody does comment, it's like, oh, that's kind of awesome. So I'm a very intrinsically motivated person, but extrinsic motivations or extrinsic feedback, it is nice. It's nice when somebody notices the results of what you've been doing, right? That makes sense. So even if you're intrinsically motivated, still having that extrinsic kind of validation is helpful. It's awesome. It feels good. So I would go for months, have somebody make one comment, and then I was fired up to go for another couple months. But with today's social media, people very rarely even work with something for a couple for months. So now if people don't see or feel a difference within 2 or 3 weeks, they often feel like they need to abandon everything and make changes. And then since there's now so much information that seemingly that seems to be effective, it looks like there's more and more and more approaches to how to be successful, and more and more of them look like they're actually valid. So you can change what you do to something that sounds just as good, if not maybe better. And it seems like you can make that change endlessly. There's an endless amounts of approaches. So when I was younger, there was really only one approach. You knew one thing that you thought might work, so you just grinded through it, you made adjustments to it, and you made it work. You adjusted to it, you stuck with it for a long time, and you just freaking made it work because you had no clue that there was any other way to do it. Now, when you hit a wall, when you hit an obstacle, when you hit a little bit of uncertainty, people just pivot to a new approach. They don't change the things that are holding them back underlyingly, in mindset, emotions, habits. They just change to something that they think might work around that mindset, emotion, habit. So people stay on the surface level and they change their approach rather than changing themselves. Now, there are great aspects. There are some great aspects to changing your approach, from personalizing what you're doing. And that's one of the reasons why I have a job is, there's a basic way to diet, but how each individual does that is personalized, and there are ways to do it more efficiently for each person. Same thing with training. If people have XYZ goal, there's probably a lot of ways to get there. So why not pick the one that's most personal to you? But the work of that approach still needs to be done. And often it needs to be done through a phase of mental, emotional, physical stress and challenge. So one aspect that I see often is people start a new diet and a new way of training. So they haven't been eating as much, or they haven't been eating as consistently, and they haven't been training as much volume, and they haven't been training as consistently, and also the training is more complete when it's with a full new program. So this would be something like me. Like I write a program for somebody. I write a nutrition program, I write a training program. The person then begins to do it. It's new to the body, so they end up losing body fat and gaining muscle tissue. So they'll do it for a month or 2 or 3 months. So they're 1, 2, or 3 months into the program, but they don't see a change on their scale, on their weight scale. So when they look on the scale in the morning, the number continues to be the same. Sorry about that. So the number continues to be the same. So they think they haven't made any change. They think they haven't made any progress. So they think, oh my gosh, I have to train even more and I have to eat even less. And it's like, no. Because what's really happening is they're building muscle to mass while losing body fat. The muscle mass that they're building makes their weight go up, but the fat loss they're losing makes their weight go down. So the scale isn't changing. And say the circumference of their body parts doesn't seem to be changing. If they lose a pound, if they lose a ½ inch of fat, but underneath the fat that's still there, they gain a ½ inch of muscle, there's no circumference change. And since they aren't lean yet, maybe they went from 2 inches of fat to only 1 inch of fat, that's still too much fat to be able to see muscle definition, so they can't see the changes yet. So the body weight scale has not moved yet. Circumference and size and appearance of muscles in the thickness of their arms, their legs, their thighs, their glutes, their core, that doesn't seem to be changing. If they were to do a DEXA scan, which is a scan of how much muscle you have and how much body fat you have, where it can actually tell you those separate from each other, they would see huge changes. But DEXA scans, I don't know exactly how much they are. I think they're between $50 to $200, and you have to schedule them, and you probably have to go to some kind of a city. We live in Rock Hill, South Carolina. You might have to go up to Charlotte. So you might have to go to a bigger city to get access to a DEXA scan. If they were to do a DEXA scan or a bod pod, or some kind of more accurate body fat percentage testing, not the bioelectrical impedance stuff. That stuff is not good. And not skin fold calipers, because you have to do them at least 1,000 times to even be proficient at them. But if you were to do a DEXA scan, they would see enormous changes. But without the DEXA scan, if they look at the scale, weight scale, they see nothing really changing. If they look at the way they look in a mirror, they don't really see much changing yet. So what's happening is a lot. An enormous amount of changes are happening. They're building muscle. They're losing fat. They're building that muscular shape underneath their fat. So as they continue to get leaner, they would see more and more and more definition, and they would have more and more and more of the physique that they want. So they might have to go from 2 inches fat down to 1 inch of fat and not really be able to see anything yet. Then go from 1 inch of fat to a half inch of fat. And it's like, ooh, what's this muscle bump? What's this bump over here? Then they go from a half inch to a quarter inch, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can really see everything. So rather than pivoting to something that shuts everything down, if they start exercising more and eating even less, that shuts down muscle building. That actually shuts down fat loss. They grind to a stall. They feel horrible. And then they go back to overeating because they actually underfed their body to a chronic point, and the body's going to downgrade its metabolism. It's going to say it's super freaking hungry after a while. They're going to have mad cravings, and everything goes to crap. So rather than pivoting to something that shuts down the process, they need to continue to grind through. So if they've been doing it for a couple months, 1, 2, or 3 months, and they can see progress in the gym, they're lifting heavier weights, but they can't see the body weight change yet, they can't really see the circumference and kind of thickness and size change in their body yet, it's just too early yet. It takes time. It takes time to build muscle tissue. It takes time to lose body fat. But social media has made it seem that it shouldn't. Social media has made people less patient. And it's made it more confusing as to when you should stay with an approach versus when you should change. Like, if you're not seeing changes yet, you must be a loser. You must be a failure. This person did this in 30 days. This person did this in 2 weeks. This person did this in 3 months. So social media has made people feel that they should get results faster and easier, and that everyone else is already doing it. And a huge component to that is that social media is, a large portion of it is fake. People try to sell things, so they lie. People try to feel good about themselves, so they lie. A lot of social media is absolute bullshit. Now, being in the industry, being a personal trainer, I know other personal trainers, not friends, but I do know personal trainers who lie. They show before and after photos that are bullshit. They sell programs based on big promises by certain clients, but they'll just sell you whatever bullshit program that they wrote and they send to everybody else. They don't sell you a personalized program, even though they say they do. Like, oh, this person, I've helped this person achieve this and this. Get your program, to help you do the same. And then they just sell the exact same program to anybody who ever reaches out. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. I mean, I know people that have earned, a natural pro card, but they were sure as hell weren't natural. They were taking drugs that they knew the urine test wouldn't catch. So there's so much fake, so much lies when you look across social media. And that just makes everything so much worse. And one component that I know of for myself is, when I was younger, I might have only known 20 or 30 people that worked out. Now, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. So my graduating class of kids in high school was like 60-some people. I can actually tell you everyone's name. So it's 60-some people that I graduated high school with. So if you're talking about the amount of people in the weight room, there might have been 20 to 30 people in the weight room across, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade that I would have known. So 20 to 30 people. Now with social media, you might know 20, 30,000. So the number of successful people seems greater, and it's true. The number that you're aware of people being successful is true. It is greater. But it's not necessarily the percentage. The percentage of people who are successful probably is about the exact same, but you're just more aware of more people. Therefore, it looks like there's more people that are successful. So some things we can do to counter the negative impact of social media is, number one, get a proven approach. Something that you fully believe in, and you're like, okay, I've talked to an expert, I've looked at research, I believe that this approach will work. Then commit to it 100 freaking percent. Don't say I'm following the diet, but you're not eating everything that's on the paper, on the program. Or don't say you're following the diet, but you're eating extra things that are on the paper. Sometimes clients tell me, I'm following the diet, but I have a can of Coca-Cola in the afternoon and maybe a little bit of candy every now and then. I'm like, well, then you're not following the damn diet, It's like, just tell me, and I'll figure out a way to fit those calories in. Or we'll, instead of having it every day, let's try to have it every other day. Like, I'll work with you, but don't freaking lie. Don't lie to yourself. That's what pisses me off more than being lied to myself. Like, it's not the first time, it's not going to be the last time that I get lied to. But I don't want people lying to themselves. That just makes me feel angry for them, makes me feel bad for them, because then in your mind, you're going to always wonder why things aren't working out for you. And you're going to blame everyone and everything around you. Nothing will ever seem to change because it's you. It's you. You go everywhere you go. You follow yourself no matter where you go. So whether you change a program, whether you change a coach, whether you change gyms, whether you change whatever the hell it is, you follow you everywhere. So don't get in the habit of lying to yourself. And then all of a sudden it becomes second nature, and then you no longer look at yourself when there's somebody to blame. So it's very, very important to be honest with yourself and say, okay, I have a program. Am I actually following it, or am I making some changes from it? If I'm doing 90% of it, then I should not expect 100% results because I'm not doing 100% of the damn stuff. So if you're not following the program, that's your fault. Don't blame the program. Talk to whoever's helping you if you can. Look to see if there's ways to modify the program to account for what you're trying to do. But you need to get an approach and you need to commit to it 100%. And then you need to give it time. And for most people, I would say 6 months minimum. Unless you have like a competition that's sooner than that. But 6 months to truly lose fat and build muscle. Whether that's to overall have a greater degree of fat loss, or to overall have a greater degree of muscle growth, or overall greater degree of, say, strength increase. But 6 months is a very reasonable time frame for a program to take effect. So if you're thinking of making changes to your nutrition and training, but you haven't even been doing it for 6 months, and you wonder if maybe you're in that category that I talked about. Maybe you've been eating better and more consistently than you ever have. You've been training better and more consistently than you ever have. You're likely building muscle and losing fat, which is why you don't see changes on the scale and why you don't yet see changes aesthetically. Because there's still just too much fat over the muscle to be able to see the muscle change. If you think you're in that category, give it more time. Give it 6 months. And then, while you're doing that, track your effort. Track your commitment to the process, not just the results. Don't just track body weight and body part measurements. Also track, did I eat each of my meals today? Did I get my calorie targets? Did I get my protein targets? Did I lift weights the way I was supposed to? Did I get all my workouts in? Track what you're doing, not only what you're getting from it. Because what you'll find for most people is they don't do it as well as they think they do. Again, people tell me all the time, like, I'm following the diet. And I'm like, yeah, but you missed 3 meals this week. You missed your protein on 3 of the 7 days. Like, I understand that you feel the pressure of what you're supposed to do. But we're not actually doing it very well. So what are we missing? What's causing us to mess these things up? And we'll look and see, okay, well, like, maybe they have variable decisions for lunch. Some days they have, a meat, a carb, and a vegetable. Then the next day they just had soup. So protein was only like 10 grams. And it's like, oh man, the other days we were getting 30 to 40 grams of protein on that meal. Now all of a sudden we're only getting 10. And we look at the end of the day and it's like, oh, you're 20 grams short of protein. Well, there you go. Maybe we have to get rid of the soup. Or maybe we have to add something with the soup to make sure we get our protein content in. Or we can add more protein to the other meals of the day. So I work with clients and I find, okay, what are we doing how are we falling short a little bit? How can we increase the consistency of that? So that's what you need to do, is track your efforts, not just the results. And then view others' stories on social media as motivation for what can be achieved, but not as a standard for how to achieve it. So if they seemingly did something in 30 days, it doesn't mean that you should be able to do it in 30 days or you're a loser or you failed. Just say, wow, that's freaking awesome, the transformation that they made. I can't wait to see my before and after photos. I can't wait to see the way I change. I'm so excited. So excited. That's essentially what I think we can do with social media. Is it increases our knowledge of what we can do. What are our approaches? What are our methods that we can use? Pick one that you think will work best for you. Commit to it 100%. Track your efforts, not just the results of your efforts, and then give it time. It's not fun. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's not what you typically see on social media. Is, oh yeah, I worked at this goal for 9 months. At times I lost my damn mind and I broke off the diet, I broke off the training program, but I came back to it 3, 4, 5, 6 times over. It took me 9 months, but here I am. I've made more progress than I expected. I'm excited. The reality of success is that it'll take more effort than you expected, and it'll take more time than you expected. That's the reality of success. If you want to be successful, however much effort you think it's going to take more. However much time you think it's going to take more. Success takes more effort and more time than you will have expected it to take. That is the truth, the reality of success. So, through social media, use the knowledge that's available to you, but be fully committed and be patient. That is not glamorous. That is not exciting. That is not like, you don't put a Rocky montage to that. There's no dun 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 dun. There's no Eye of the Tiger when you're telling somebody to be patient. Right? That's not exciting. That's not fun. You can't sum up all of your training and dieting in a 3.5 minute song and all of a sudden be at the end. There is no movie montage moment to success. Okay? That's only in the movie whenever they're talking about your success. But that's not reality. That's not real life. Real life is, it'll take you more time and more effort than you expected. That's reality. Okay. So, I don't know if I just depressed everybody. But I do believe that social media is freaking awesome. I actually love it because the amount of information that's out there. Like, I'm a perfectionist at nature. I'm a type A person, but I think I come across as more of like a relaxed type A. If that's, I'm like a type A too. So I'm a type A person. I want results immediately, and I want to know absolutely everything I can do to reach those results. But I've also learned that within that pressure, within that desire to be my absolute best as fast as humanly possible, there's still time. There's still time that's needed. There's still attention to detail and effort. Whenever I do diets, like I've done 1.5 million diets for both like weight gain and weight loss. When I do them, I know it's going to take time. I know it's going to be more effort than I expected. And every single time, it's freaking horrible to some degree. It's not like the end of the world and I'm hating my life. But you're like, okay, I'm kind of hungry at the end of the day. I'd like to eat more food, but I'm not really supposed to, so I'll just chew on, Altoids. So you have to say no, and you have to eat some Altoids every now and then. Or drink some diet soda just to fill up your belly. But there are moments that you don't get to do what you want to do. You have to do what you have to do. You have to do what's best for your future self, not for your current self. And I believe social media can help you better manage those moments. It can help you stay motivated by seeing how other people work through those moments. But you still have to have those moments. You still have to have some toughness. You still have to grind through the work. And I think having that realization and that balance of saying, yeah, I want to use social media to learn as much as I can and to use other people's stories to motivate myself to continue to push through. But I still have to be patient. I still have to put in the work. Okay. Well, I hope it was helpful in some way. The person I talked to, the listener who sent out the email, we've already emailed back and forth quite a bit, and they were feeling somewhere around the same thing, but they were a little more demotivated by social media than I've been, and I've just also had longer, So I've been doing this for 21 years. Well, no, geez, gosh, longer than that. I started like my health and fitness kind of aspects at 15, so I've been doing it for 24 years. I started making money as a trainer since, oh gosh, I think 2002. So I've been training people for that long. And that's been 21 years of working with people, over 3,000 people. So I just have more experience working through it. And that's what this listener was trying to get through is they're very, very demotivated because they see everybody achieving everything instantly. And two of the accounts they sent me were absolute bullshit, and somebody was just, lying and trying to sell them programming. But it can be challenging to manage social media. So hopefully with everything we talked about today, there's a little more a different perspective or a newer perspective on how to manage that. But if you have any trouble, if you have any struggles, just let me know. I'm always here. I'm always happy to help. So thank you to those who do send in questions. I really do enjoy it. I find it motivating to keep doing the podcast because I know people are listening. So thank you very, very much. Cool. Well, if you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything you want to know, let me know. My email, brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like our podcast, please share it. When you share it, let people know that we answer questions for free. That's exactly what we want that podcast to be, is just a free service for Q&A. And then thank you to those who donate to support the podcast so we can actually do this. There's a high hosting cost every year for the podcast. I put a lot of work into it. So I really appreciate the donations to help cover some of that cost. I really, really genuinely do appreciate them. Thank you very, very much. If you want to donate, you can do that on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. And then if you like the information we share in our podcast, we always share more on social media. Find us and follow us under the name Brutal Iron Gym on Instagram and YouTube. Cool. Okay, as always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.